Gone fishin', the very first words uttered by Pete Martell in the pilot episode of Mark Frost and David Lynch's seminal television masterpiece, Twin Peaks, followed by the sound of a distant horn somewhere, and Pete observing, "The lonesome foghorn blows." Although not the first image presented to the audience of Twin Peaks, more on that later, these first spoken words are essential sigils that can help us to unlock so many of the mysteries and deeper meanings that abound in this show, and make up the complex and fascinating web Frost and Lynch weave over the course of this work. The fish, the idea, the slippery thing David Lynch dives deep to find inside his own creative mind, and the thing he writes about in his own creative memoir, Catching the Big Fish, how to live the art life and catch that big creative idea juxtaposed here in the opening moments of Twin Peaks with the bellowing of a lonesome foghorn, interrupting the process of catching said fish, a dark and macabre harbinger of the shattering of foundations about to come for the town of Twin Peaks. Indeed, it is this foghorn blast that causes Pete to turn around and see the body of Laura Palmer wrapped in plastic, lying face down naked on a rocky beach, murdered, that will become the tower moment for everyone in this story, the triggering event that will lead to so much pain, torment, struggle, fear, but also rejuvenation, redemption, new life, and the destructuring of old forms, the very essence of the 16th card in the major arcana, presented here in the opening seconds of the Twin Peaks pilot. Welcome to Falling, Floating, Dreaming, the magic of Twin Peaks. This is a new Twin Peaks project that hopes to explore the beloved world of Twin Peaks, both seasons of the original show, the film Fire Walk With Me, and the return, plus all the missing pieces and officially released materials through the lens of tarot. The premise of this project is not to attempt to, quote, solve the mysteries of Twin Peaks or attempt to figure out what Frost and Lynch were trying to do or say with their art. Instead, just like the tarot, this project attempts to use Twin Peaks, quote, as an outer mirror for internal and external processes and aligns with the basic functions of mythology or the essential services that mythology provides for human growth and development, and as a resource for self-revelation and self-reclamation processes, end quote. That quote comes from Angeles Arian in the book The Tarot Handbook, Practical Applications of Ancient Visual Symbols, and it perfectly sums up what this podcast project is all about. The secrets of Twin Peaks are found within you, in your own mind, body, spirit, and heart. Lynch and Frost have given us this beautifully rich, complex, deep, and dark story, a mirror to stare into and use to discover those inner processes by looking at a reflection of the world and of ourselves in order to come to our own conclusions about what all of that means. My name is Justin Carey, and I invite you along for this joyride, my magic friends, to discover the secrets of Twin Peaks, dive into the mysteries of the tarot, and enjoy this strange dream with me for just a little while. Welcome to Falling, Floating, Dreaming, the magic of Twin Peaks. On this episode, we are talking about the pilot of Twin Peaks, the 16th card in the major arcana, the Tower, and what happens when all the foundations start to crumble beneath our feet. Much like the show Twin Peaks itself, which is rife with duality, twins, doubles, mirrors of things, the Tower Tarot card is often interpreted in two distinct ways. Some traditions see this card as a, quote, symbol of universal principle of healing, renovation, and restoration, end quote. This view comes from Angelis Arian in the book The Tarot Handbook, Practical Applications of Ancient Visual Symbols. In other traditions, the Tower is seen more as a harbinger of destruction. For example, the website Crowley Toth Tarot suggests, quote, at the bottom part of the card, therefore, is shown the destruction of the old established aeon by lightning, flames, engines of war. In the right-hand corner are the jaws of Dis, belching flame at the root of the structure. Falling from the tower are broken figures of the garrison. It will be noticed that they have lost their human shape. They've become mere geometrical expressions. This suggests another and totally different interpretation of the card. To understand this, it is necessary to refer to the doctrines of yoga, especially those most widely current in southern India, where the cult of Shiva, the destroyer, is paramount. Shiva is represented as dancing upon the bodies of his devotees. To understand this is not easy for most Western minds. Briefly, the doctrine is that the ultimate reality, which is perfection, is nothingness. Hence, all manifestations, however glorious, however delightful, are stains. To obtain perfection, all existing things must be annihilated. The above should make it clear, and continues the quote from this website, the above should make it clear that magical symbols must always be understood in a double sense, each contradictory of the other. These ideas blend naturally with the higher and deeper significance of the card. So, and ending the quote there, the idea being that the tower card often appears in this sort of dual sense. Much in the same way that so much of the Twin Peaks show is presented in a duality. There is just every second of that show presents us with binary, duality, mirroring. It is nonstop. And we'll get into all of that in the episode discussion, but this is more of a background for the Tower card. In the Rider-Waite tradition, the Tower represents a season of change, that the only constant in life is that things will change, and that when this change appears unexpectedly, we often feel a lack of control and are left feeling vulnerable and insecure. In the Rider-Waite Tarot deck, the Tower card is depicted as a tall tower built on a rocky foundation that is under attack from natural forces, such as lightning and rain. People are seen throwing themselves from the tower as a massive bolt of lightning strikes the top of the tower and knocks a golden crown from the spire. The two human figures, one clad in red on the left and one in blue on the right, are upside down and falling toward the abyss below. Looks of fear and terror are on their faces. These images are striking, but it is important to remember where in the Major Arcana series this card arrives. If you break the Major Arcana into sections, with the Fool card, the initial card in the Major Arcana, sort of standing outside of those three sections, since the Fool is sort of a tabula rasa figure that exists sort of outside of the Major Arcana series, then you can sort of say there are 21 cards in that Major Arcana series as opposed to 22, even though the Fool is still a part of that. The first row, then, of that 21 card series, those first 7, sort of represents human development, or, if you will, learning to know yourself, right? Know thyself. That series ends with the Chariot, which sort of represents lifting you out of that self-knowledge phase into the second row of 7 cards. That second row of 7 cards represents sort of a deeper self-exploration and often veers into that maturity of knowledge representing not just knowing yourself, but understanding how yourself functions within a world of other selves. So other human selves, and how yourself functions within a world of other selves. And then that third row of 7 cards, that second row ends with temperance. And of course, having sort of a tempered mind allows you to move into that third row of cards And that third row begins with the devil, sort of facing you with choices and sort of testing that knowledge of yourself and how that functions. And then the second card in that third row, of course, is the Tower card. And it is in that moment that all of that gained knowledge, all of that sort of knowledge of the self in the world, it all is tested, and it all sort of crumbles. And it is that moment where you realize that everything that you've built up into that point sort of falls away and starts anew. And what then is on the other side of that moment of terror, that moment of, everything is falling apart. You're ushered into the remaining cards in the major arcana, which all offer a view of what comes after the Tower, which is knowledge of the world beyond human knowledge, the cosmological, if you will. And the second card, and so the second card in that row is the Tower. And all that you have learned up to that point crumbles as you pass into something new, which is the star is after the Tower, a world of knowledge beyond human knowledge, the cosmic, the spiritual, something beyond life and death, which, by the way, is the name of a later episode in Twin Peaks. In fact, the last episode in this series of Twin Peaks, which is, of course, a mirror for the pilot episode. So the Tower card, I think, is an appropriate place to start to understand some of what is happening here in the pilot episode of Twin Peaks as we are brought into this tale, not at the beginning of the story, but at the moment when everything falls apart, at the moment when all the foundations crumble, when Laura Palmer, the One, literally dies and moves from this world into the next, although we won't get the full story on that until much, much later. And instead of the happy fool, Pete Martell, with his knapsack and fishing rod and traveling whistling tune, we hear the lonesome foghorn of the crumbling tower, and we are presented with one of the greatest masterpieces of television to ever grace the screen.
Welcome to Twin Peaks. My name is Margaret Lanterman. I live in Twin Peaks. I am known as the Log Lady. There is a story behind that. There are many stories in Twin Peaks. Some of them are sad, some funny. Some are stories of madness, of violence. Some are ordinary, yet they all have about them a sense of mystery. The mystery of life, sometimes the mystery of death. The mystery of the woods surrounding Twin Peaks. To introduce this story, let me just say it encompasses the all. It is beyond the fire, though few would know that meaning. It is a story of many, but it begins with one. And I knew her. The one leading to the many is Laura Palmer. Laura is the one.
The Log Lady intro we just heard is the first of many prologue introductions for every Twin Peaks episode written and directed by David Lynch in 1993 when the show re-aired on the Bravo network. These vignettes feature Catherine E. Coulson as Margaret Lanterman, the Log Lady, a benevolent denizen of Twin Peaks who carries a large Douglas fir log and communes with it to offer crucial information to the characters of the show from time to time. The wands, of course, wood, are one of the four suits of the tarot, and fire, a major mythological symbol in Twin Peaks and the tarot, are very much connected to wood. These intros are an important part of the Twin Peaks mythos because Lynch wrote them after the show and before the film Fire Walk With Me, which would reveal absolutely crucial mythological paradigms for the Twin Peaks story and pave the way for Twin Peaks: The Return. Here, Lanterman speaks about Laura Palmer as the one, as in perhaps the chosen one, but also perhaps as in the number one, the one leading to the many. If we view this as a tarot idea, could Laura represent the start, the number one, that leads to many, the number 22? Lanterman also says all the stories of Twin Peaks deal with the mystery of life. This is vitally important because in this way, Twin Peaks and the tarot are one and the same. They are both mirrors into which we can gaze and better understand ourselves, and in doing so, better understand our path in life and the mystery of that path as it unfolds before us, and sometimes the mystery of death, which is where this story begins, and why I have decided to start our tarot journey at card number 16 with the pilot, because we don't really start at the beginning. We start at page 16. And of course, Carrie Page lives at 1516 Odessa, Texas. But much more on that later. The pilot begins with reflections. The character we see is Josie Packard, gazing into a mirror and humming to herself. A low and ominous musical track by Angelo Badalamenti creates a creeping tension that sets the mood perfectly for Twin Peaks. Like the tarot itself, so much of Twin Peaks is concerned with finding inward meaning by looking outward, and vice versa. So the audience is constantly treated to these mirror shots and double images, doppelgangers and dualities, partnerships and relationships, couplings and team-ups, impersonators and masks. It seems the true meaning is always one more layer below the surface on Twin Peaks. You just need to pull back one more curtain, draw away one more drape, dramatically rip off one more disguise, or divine just one more secret truth. The tarot offers this same sort of truth-seeking practice, should one be willing to trust the process. From Josie's humming lament, we follow Pete Martell, the fishing rod on the shoulder fool, on his way to his gone fishin' excursion, only to be interrupted by the lonesome foghorn, causing him to discover a body wrapped in plastic, deposited on the rocky beach of the shore just feet away from his own doorstep. Distraught, Pete reports this discovery to Lucy Moran at the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department, who connects him to Sheriff Harry S. Truman, a true man, who promptly makes his way to the scene of the crime. Deputy Andy Brennan breaks down as he takes evidence photos of the body, the first crack in the foundation of the tower crumbling from the death of this young girl, a truly humanistic, emotional response to a life taken too soon. Andy sobs uncontrollably, a person never attuned to the horrible reality of coming face to face with death. This body is identified by Dr. Hayward as Laura Palmer, a 17-year-old local sweetheart, prom queen, and daughter of Leland and Sarah Palmer. The tower has started to crumble for the town of Twin Peaks, and nothing will ever be the same for the people who call this place home. Events have been put into motion now that will change the course of lives here forever, irrevocably, and bring pain, suffering, strife, and turmoil to many, but also new life, hope, and a deconstruction of old forms and ideas to usher in something new. As the pilot episode moves on, word spreads throughout the town of Twin Peaks of the news of Laura's death. Leland and Sarah Palmer, her parents, become distraught and break down with grief. Benjamin Horn, a local businessman, owner of the Great Northern Hotel and Leland's business partner, is negotiating a deal to expand his business ventures with some Norwegian investors to create the Ghostwood Estates. Ben spits into a roaring fire before meeting with his investors. Fire is a key mythological symbol in both the tarot and Twin Peaks, and surely spitting into it cannot bode well. In the midst of the tower falling for the citizens of Twin Peaks, Ben is trying to build something new. Our resident King of Pentacles, Ben is trying to secure his foundations with a new investment, a new business expansion with Ghostwood. He desperately tries to convince the investors that the air in Twin Peaks is clean and full of life, while a young girl lies murdered only miles away. Norma Jennings, Shelley Johnson, and Bobby Briggs all find themselves at the Double R on the morning when Laura's body is found. If Twin Peaks has a beating heart of life and love, the Double R is it. Coffee and the best cherry pie anytime you want it. Just head to the Double R. On this morning, Bobby and Shelley leave together, engaged in a love affair. Shelley is married to a horribly abusive man named Leo Johnson. Some towers should crumble. As the day continues, the teens at school are keenly aware of Laura's absence, and in one of the best scenes of the pilot, they intuitively understand their friend is dead as they observe Laura's empty seat in class. A young girl screams and runs across the courtyard outside. The police quietly speak to the teacher, and a picture of Abe Lincoln gazes over the classroom from the front. Even here, in a place that should feel safe and secure and solid, the tower comes crumbling down around them as they just feel, on a humanistic level, with no words, no expositions, they just feel the fear and the dread and the sadness of their world falling apart around them. Back at the Palmer house, Sarah is devastated. Her child is dead, and her world has been destroyed, her tower completely crumbled. We are shown the stairs of the Palmer house, a low shot that really emphasizes how tower-like these stairs are, how massive and foreboding, how they lead up and must be climbed, rising to the top of some spire. What's up there? What is at the top of this particular tower? A circling ceiling fan? Sarah asks, "Who's up there?" And she knows it's not her daughter.
9:00 p.m. She came home from Bobby's. And she was going up the stairs. Those stairs. Right there. Who's upstairs?
Your husband and one of my men.
I can tell from the sounds that it isn't her.
The police collect evidence, a diary, a camera. The investigation begins, and another young girl has gone missing who will soon stumble back into Twin Peaks. Ronette Pulaski. The sawmill closes for the day, against the wishes of Catherine Martell, but Josie Packard does it anyway. We meet Big Ed Hurley at Big Ed's gas farm, and he meets up with James Hurley on his way out of town in a hurry. James is distraught. He tells Ed Laura was the one, echoing the log lady's intro, although that did not air with the original pilot. Ed offers James a cup of coffee, a sacred sacrament of bonding and friendship in Twin Peaks, but James does not have time for it. James asks Ed to give Donna Hayward, Laura and James' friend, a note. Meet at the Roadhouse at 9:30. Then, at 11:30 a.m. on February 24th, 1989, 12 miles west of the state line and 5 miles south of the Canadian border with 79,000 miles on the odometer, we meet Special Agent Dale Cooper, FBI. Cooper represents many things on this show, many different symbols and tropes in the tarot, and he brings a confidence and stability here to this tower moment that is much needed as the town is reeling from the foundation crumbling under them. But Cooper is also very much a dual-natured creature. He delights in the investigation. He revels in the Douglas firs with a huge grin on his face, asking Truman, "You gotta tell me about these trees you got here." But then sternly tells Truman, "You work for me, got it?" As Cooper examines Laura's body, the lights flicker. A bad transformer. On the Tower Tarot card, a massive lightning bolt strikes the top of the tower. Electricity. Lightning. This natural force is extremely important in Twin Peaks, and it is a natural ushering element for the destruction of the tower. And so we see it here. Flickering lights, lightning, electricity. Anytime electricity is acting up in Twin Peaks, we should pay attention. Big Ed is back at the gas farm, and he meets up with Donna Hayward, who confronts her angry boyfriend, Mike, another duality mirroring the abusive Shelley-Leo relationship from earlier. Ed is married to Nadine, who is obsessed with drapes, and she harangues Ed to hang up her newly ordered drapes. The drapes become a mythological symbol in this show for the boundary between the internal and the external, the private and the public. Another mask, or curtain, we put up to hide the inside from the outside. The tarot can help us to open up those drapes. As the investigation continues back to the sheriff's station, Cooper breaks open Laura's diary and finds a key to a safety deposit box and traces of cocaine. Truman is surprised that Laura may not be the town's sweetheart that everyone thought she was. Public self versus private self. Cooper finds a box of chocolate bunnies and records a message for his bureau partner, Diane. Diane, I'm holding in my hands a box of chocolate bunny rabbits. The police locate the scene of the horrible crime, an old train car in the woods, and Deputy Andy again breaks down with a very human, tear-filled response and calls in the news to Lucy at the station. Andy's crying reminds us that the tower falling is painful, sad, and very hard on the heart. At the crime scene, Truman and Cooper find a mound of dirt, half a gold heart necklace, and a paper with the phrase, "Fire, walk with me," etched in blood. When Cooper and Truman investigate the safety deposit box key, a stuffed deer head has fallen off the wall and rests on the table at the bank. The attendant says it fell down. Just another sign the world around them is falling down right now. Later that night, a town hall meeting is held, and the log lady is there. She flickers the overhead lights, electricity hitting the tower. Cooper shares the news with the town and issues a curfew order. We are shown a traffic light dangling above Sparkwood and 21st Street, and it changes from yellow to red. Later, Cooper will say he is whittling wood because that's what you do in a town where a yellow light still means slow down instead of go faster. I mentioned earlier that the tower has a dual meaning. One side is destruction and the world falling apart, and the other is new life and rejuvenation. Here in the pilot, at this moment, we meet Harriet Haywood, Donna's younger sister, and we get a glimpse of this theme, new life among the wreckage of the old. Harriet is composing a poem, and she asks Donna which line she prefers, blossom of the evening or full flower of the evening.
Or
a strangely optimistic question on such an ominous night. One which sees the sisters confined to their home under a police-issued curfew when their friend was murdered less than 24 hours before. Yet, Harriet somehow sees this night in full blossom, full blooming in the darkest of times. She decides on the full bloom of the evening and helps Donna sneak out of the house to meet up with James, which sets in motion the rest of the pilot episode.
I like the full
At 9:30, several of the characters, Mike, Bobby, Ed, Norma, Donna, Cooper, and Truman, all intersect at the Roadhouse, a biker gang hangout on the edge of town where Julie Cruz sings deep and dark lullabies into the night, and leather-clad Marlon Brando caricatures slow dance and brood in corners. It's the perfect juxtaposition for the tower. Two worlds, one falling in love. The deep love songs of Julie Cruz mixed with the unexpected crowd of biker gangs and bar brawlers. A fight breaks out, and Donna escapes, pursued by Cooper and Truman. She finds James alone in the woods, and they have a passionate moment as James' personal tower crumbles, realizing how much he loved Laura and how strange she felt last night when she ran away into the woods, when she broke his heart. And he realizes he will be blamed for her murder. And now, as he realizes he has feelings for Donna, and she realizes she loves him back. They kiss under the moonlight, confused and in the throes of passion, new life and rejuvenation among the crumbling stones of the tower. James has the other half of the gold heart necklace, and they decide to bury it in the ground. They leave and are intercepted by Cooper and Truman. James is arrested, and Donna is sent home with her father. Cooper and Truman enjoy some donuts in the break room, the policeman's dream, as Cooper calls it, and the pilot ends with a destroyed Sarah Palmer screaming, as if waking from a dream herself, to see a gloved hand digging up the heart necklace from the secret location where Donna and James buried it. If you look close in the mirror behind Sarah, you will see a silver-haired man standing there, menacingly staring at her, as if from another place. We start and end with important mirrors as the tower fully collapses around the world of Twin Peaks. Thank you so much for tuning in to this inaugural episode of Falling, Floating, Dreaming, The Magic of Twin Peaks. My name is Justin Carey, and if you enjoyed this episode, I would encourage you to continue listening and tune in for the rest. I'm hoping to do one of these for all of the episodes, for Fire Walk with Me, The Return, for all of it, and really make some interesting connections here between the tarot and Twin Peaks. If you enjoyed this, you can subscribe on all of your favorite podcasting platforms. You can reach out to me, Justin R. Carey. You can find me on Instagram mainly. You can send me some comments, post a comment. You can send in an audio message. Find me wherever you can find me. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you want to have a conversation about Twin Peaks, if you want to hop on Discord and record or be a part of this podcast or do an interview or have a conversation and do, like a conversation episode, we can totally do that. And I would love to do that. So let me know. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Falling, Floating, Dreaming, The Magic of Twin Peaks. I'm Justin Carey. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.